Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nastapraeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from the Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 32. Today is 25th of February 2022. And we will start by reading the Sanskrit words one by one. Kachit,
Kachit,
Buddha,
Buddha,
Swasti,
Swasti,
Anamiva,
Anamiva,
Aste,
Aste,
Svapalka Putra,
Palka Putra,
Bhagavat,
Bhagavat,
Prapana,
Prapana,
Ya,
Ya,
Krishna,
Krishna,
Pada Ankita,
Ankita,
Marga.
Marga. Sushu,
Acheshtata,
Seshtata,
Prema Vibhina,
Prema Vibhina,
Dharya.
Darya.
Kachit Buddha Swasti Anamiva Aste.
Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste.
Svabhalka Putra Bhagavat Prapanna.
Svabhalka Putra Bhagavat Prapana.
Ya Krishna Padan Kita Marga Pam Susri.
Ya Krishna Padankita Marga Pamsu.
Acheshtata Prema Vibhina Dharyaha.
Acheshtata Prema Vibhina Daya.
Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste.
Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste.
Svabhalka Putra Bhagavat Prapanna.
Svabhalka Putra Bhagavat Prapana.
Ya Krishna Padankita Marga Pam Susri.
Ya Krishna Padankita Marga Pamsu.
Acheshtata Prema Vibhinna Dharyaha.
Acheshtata Prema Vibhina Darya. Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste.
Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste.
Svabhalka Putra Bhagavat Prapana.
Svapalka Putra Bhagavat Prapanna.
Ya Krishna Padankita Marga Pamsush.
Ya Krishna Padika Marga Pamsuhi.
Acheshtata Prema Vibhina Darya.
Acheshtata Darya.
Would anyone else like to recite the verse?
Kachit Buddha Swasta Anamiva Aste.
Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste.
Salpalka Putro Bhagavat Prapana.
Svabhalka Putra Bhagavat Prapana.
Ya Krishna Padam Kita Marga Pamsus.
Ya Krishna Padan Kitamarga Pamsush.
Achishtata prema vibhina darya.
Nachestata Prema Vibhina Darya.
Kachit Buddha Sasvanamivaste.
Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste.
Svahalka Putro Bhagavat Prapana.
Swapalka Putra Bhagavat Prapanna.
Krishna Panda Kita Marga Pramsus.
Ya Krishna Padan Kita Marga Pamsus.
Ashes Tata Prema Vibhina Darya.
Achestata Prema Vibhina Daryaha.
Kachit Buddha Swatyanamivaste.
Kachit Buddha Sastyana Aste.
Swapar Kaputro Bhagavat Papanaha.
Pucho Bhagavat Prapana.
Yat Krishna Pandikita Malgapamsus.
Krishna Padan Kitamarga Pamsush.
Ashes Tata Prema Vilina Bharyat.
Asistata Prema Vibhina Darya.
Kachit Buddha Sastyana Aste.
Kachit Buddha Swatyanamivaste.
Swapalka Putra Bhagavat Prapana.
Swapar Kaputro Bhagavat Papana.
Ya Krishna Param Kita Marga Pamsush.
Yat Krishna Padam Kita Pamsus.
Achesh Tata Prema Vibhina Darya.
Ashes Prema Vibhina Darya.
I'm gonna go again. We were on mute.
Kachit Buddha Sasyanamiva Aste.
Kachit Buddha swasta
Amiva Aste.
Svapalka Putro Bhagavat Prapana.
Swapalka Putro Bhagavat Prapana.
Krishna Padanki Tamarga Pamsus.
Ya Krishna Padan Kitamarga Pamsush.
Ashtin Tata Prema Vibhina Darya.
Achestata Prema Vibhina Darya.
Okay, let's read words, Sanskrit and English. Kachit,
Kachit.
weather.
Buddha.
Buddha,
Buddha.
very learned. Swasti,
Asti.
well. Anamivaha,
Anamiva.
faultless.
Faultless.
Aste,
Aste.
does exist.
Does exist.
Swapalka Putraha,
Svapalka Putraha.
the son of Swapalka Akrura.
Son of Svapalka Akrura.
Bhagavat,
Bhagavat.
regarding the personality of Godhead.
Regarding the personality of Godhead.
Prapanaha,
Prapanaha.
surrendered.
Surrendered.
Ya,
Ya.
one who.
One who.
Krishna,
Krishna.
the Lord.
The Lord.
Pada Ankita,
Pada Ankita.
marked with footprints.
Marked with footprints.
Marga,
Marga.
path. Tam sushu,
Sushu.
in the dust.
In the dust.
Acheshtata,
Chastata.
exhibited.
Exhibited.
Prema vibhinna,
Prema Vibhina.
lost in transcendental love.
Lost in transcendental love.
Daryaha,
Dharma.
mental equilibrium.
Mental equilibrium.
Translation, please tell me whether Akrura, the son of Shvapalka, is doing well. He is a faultless soul surrendered unto the personality of Godhead. He once lost his mental equilibrium due to his ecstasy of transcendental love and fell down on the dust of a road which was marked with the footprints of Lord Krishna. Purport. When Akrura came to Vrindavan in search of Krishna, he saw the footprints of the Lord on the dust of Nandagram and at once fell on them in ecstasy of transcendental love. This ecstasy is possible for a devotee who is fully absorbed in incessant thoughts of Krishna. Such a pure devotee of the Lord is naturally faultless because he is always associated with the supremely pure personality of Godhead. Constant thought of the Lord is the antiseptic method for keeping oneself free from the infectious contamination of the material qualities. The pure devotee of the Lord is always in company with the Lord by thinking of him. Yet in the particular context of time and place, the transcendental emotions take a different turn, and this breaks the mental equilibrium of the devotee. Lord Chaitanya displayed the typical example of transcendental ecstasy, as we can understand from the life of this incarnation of God. Om Ainana Timirandhasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jukatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuba Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavari Paskatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna, I'm glad to be here with you all. We are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 32. Here we continue hearing the questions of Vidura. And Vidura asks about his family, and Akrura is the uncle of Krishna, and he's son of Shvabhalka, and Shvabhalka is son of Vrishni. And Akrura is he is the oldest of 13 sons. So, and Akrura is a pure devotee of Krishna. And Vidura is inquiring about him. And when he's remembering about him, he is remembering his pastime with the Lord, with Krishna. And the pastime is described in the Krishna book. We can read it in the Krishna book. And Akrura was sent to get Krishna and Balaram, and who knows who sent him to get them.
Kamsa.
Yes. Kamsa, yes. So because he wanted to kill Krishna, so he was thinking that Krishna will come, and I will make a plan to kill him. And like, of course, Akrura knew the plan. At the same time, Akrura knew that everything goes under the supervision and disposition of the Supreme Lord. Man proposes, God disposes. So he felt safe in that sense, even to go to pick up Krishna and Balaram. Yes, and also he desperately wanted to see Krishna, because as a pure devotee, as a devotee of the Lord, he was in his humility thinking that all his sinful reactions will be purified just by seeing the Lord. So he just wanted to go, basically. So he went on the road, on the way, and when he was coming to Vrindavan, Nandagram, he saw marks on the road made by Krishna. So he stepped out of the chariot, and he first, like, he was experiencing respect towards the signs of the Lord, and then he started crying, he started weeping, and his body trembled, and he was experiencing extreme joy, and he saw the dust that was touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, and he fell flat on his face and started to roll on the ground. So this is what Prabhupada is describing here, this pastime of Krishna. And a similar pastime as Akrura manifested Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago. Yes, and in that part of Krishna book, Prabhupada also describes like how to visit holy places, how to visit Vrindavan. It's not that I will fly to India and then take someone who will drive me to the village called Vrindavan, and I will be thinking that I'm visiting Vrindavan. The way one visits Vrindavan is that when he approaches the place, he smears the dust of Vrindavan on his body, and it's simply about the spirit and the consciousness that we approach the holy place with, than just like driving a car there and thinking that now I'm spiritually done, basically. So that we get to know here, and it's like such an inspiring text that Srila Prabhupada is sharing here, because he gives us guidance how to reach the ultimate goal of life. And here we get to know that the ultimate goal of life is to constantly think of the Lord. Ante Narayana Smrtihi. The goal of life is to remember Vishnu or Krishna at the end of life. And the small problem is that we do not know when our life will end. Like I might think, okay, like I know that now from the book. So when I'm thinking like dying, then I will just think about Krishna, right? Maybe I will just start chanting or that. But the issue is that that I might die without knowing that I'm dying. The heart just can stop working, and it's even more difficult. Maybe I will be taking a slow death. The body will be like dysfunctioning for some time before leaving the body. But the issue is that I have no like conscious remembrance of the experience of dying, so I will be probably in extreme anxiety, confusion, distress. So that plan will probably fail. So the only way to be sure that at the time of death we remember the Lord is to think of him all the time. That's the trick. Okay. And pure devotees in the line of disciplic succession give us guidance how to remember the Lord constantly. This is the sentence here in the text. Constant thought of the Lord is the antiseptic method for keeping oneself free from the infectious contamination of the material qualities. Nivrtatar shir upagiyamanat bhavo shada chatromano bhiramat ka utama shloka gunanu vada puman virajeta vina pashugnat. That's the verse I'm thinking of when reading this sentence from Prabhupada, and that's a verse spoke by Maharaj P.A. Rikshit towards the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he says that this chanting and hearing, the hearing should be done in a line of disciplic succession. So one should hear from a bona fide spiritual master, and that's the proper cure, medicine for the conditioned spirit soul, and is joyful and is inspiring, and there is no loss. So who wouldn't want to participate in such a process, except a person who either wants to kill himself, kill the soul, vina pashu gnat, or wants or is a butcher. So these two people will not be into hearing such messages, such pastimes, such chanting about the Lord, but still we are getting the chance, regardless of our current state, our current consciousness, our current entanglements in the modes of the material nature, by the mercy of the current link to the parampara, and for me is Srila Prabhupada. So that's the guidance how to constantly think of the Lord, and by practice, by chanting, by keeping the regulative principles, we free ourselves, we free our mind, we free our body, so that we have a space to constantly think of the Lord. And ultimately it's on the mercy of the Lord, so we are praying for the mercy, because the body is under the modes of the material nature, the mind also, and the Lord of the material nature is Krishna. Okay. Yes. Like, I wanted to discuss a little bit about war, because in our part of the world it's kind of close. Like the last 2 days when Russia invaded Ukraine, and like this, like it's like a full-out war, and like there have been many things said, people done various things, and I would like to approach like the topic of war from the spiritual perspective, maybe try to understand the perspective of the Bhagavatam, because it's quite different maybe than what we hear from other sources. It might be quite interesting. Like, so one might firstly ask, why war, right? Why on this nice world we actually have war? Like we've done so much economic improvement. We are so smart, intelligent right now. And still it seems that there is war, there is disease, there is death, there are all those bad things, but we are such good people. So what to do, right? So, and then usually it happens that there is one bad person, like in like the president of Russia, Putin, who spoils the whole thing basically. There is always like one bad person, and we are all good people. So that's not actually the version of the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita like clearly claims that like part of this material world is war, part of this material world is disease, part of this material world is death, and it's birth, and it's suffering. So it will be always part of the world. So that's one news. Okay, so as we are all experiencing like some distresses, war, disease, dying and stuff, like what to do. And what to do is described in this purport, right? The cure is not like trying to negotiate peace or like impose sanctions. Right now, every good state is imposing sanctions. So that means all the politicians are talking very harsh words. They are claiming that they are doing something, but they are driven by greed, basically. Like for example, now you can see the Western countries, the United States, they do not want to go to war. They do not want to impose strict sanctions because it would create pain and suffering for their countries. So they are driven by greed. The one side is driven by greed, and Russia, maybe we could say that they are driven by fear. So you can choose your side. Yes. Yes, and like there is this notion in society that I feel that war is bad. Okay, so I've said that war is just a part of the material context. The material context is not very good, we can say. Okay, so we could say, okay, that war is also bad. But if I say that war is bad, that probably like, if war is, what's bad about war? Maybe some of you would like respond like, okay, because people die, right? That's the bad thing. Okay, the problem is death. Perfect. So we've arrived at the core problem, and now we want to solve the problem, right? The problem is death. So if I negotiate peace with the other country, so-called peace, because it's not really peace. So have I solved death? No, because I'm choosing, okay, maybe I will not die now, or some people will not die now, but they will die in a few years, basically. It seems like better in some perspective, but not really. So the solution is to chant the glories of the Lord. Either you are on the Russian side, or you are on the Western side, or you are on a third, fourth, sixth side. It like depends on the group, because the core problem, if you want to look at the core problem, is the misidentification with the body. Pumsastriyomi tunibhavam eta tayormito hrdaya grantim ahu atagrha kshetra suptata viter janasa mohoya ahamameti. I've promised myself that I will chant a few verses because my wife is watching and she laughs when I'm citing the verses. So, okay. So Maharaj Rishabhadev is instructing his sons, like in the previous classes you've also mentioned some of his verses, and like the the misidentification, the body misidentification comes from the sex desire, and on that sex desire there are more things. Then I want wife. When I have wife, I want a house. If I have a house, I want children. I want friends, family. I want some group that I can identify with and feel good within that group. So you can choose your group. Either you are on the left side, right side, and even the scientists, the psychology scientists, they found out that like just to feel good in the group and saying that the other group is bad, there is nothing needed just to be told that I'm in that group. And so if I'm told that I'm in the group of Czech Republic people, Czech people, then I feel good about the Czech people, and everything that Czech people do is good, and everything that other do is wrong because they are part of a different group. So we are completely misidentified, and the process of proper identification is the process of devotional service, because by that we can cut the knot in the heart, as it's said in the verse. Vidaya hrdaya grantis chidiante sarva samsara kshiante sarva karmani drishtva eva manishvare. It's maybe like one of the last verses that sometimes some of you sing, like the series from the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So by the process of devotional service, of chanting Hare Krishna, the knot in the heart is cut, and we can actually see the self as master. We can see who we really are, and because we need that to conduct the proper choices, because otherwise, like what? Like either I will be identified with this group, that group, with that family, society, and it's all mess. Okay. Yeah, and like I also was thinking, okay, like the conflict between the United States or the Western nations and Russia, it's like, okay, like we are looking at, okay, Russia invaded Ukraine, Russia started the war, so Russia is bad. Like, of course, like like you can see on TV, the politicians are trying to get their spotlight to see how Putin is bad, because that's the political credits. But like, let's understand it. If I explain it on a relationship with my wife, so let's say that we both share the same household, and I'm sitting in my room, and my wife comes and says, "Oh, I want that you clean the uh, clean the bathroom when you use the bathroom," and I will be like, fine. And then like she comes and, "I want that you clean this dirty stuff from somewhere," and I will be more smart, and I will say, "Oh, you want me to clean my stuff from that place?" Like I will be using reflective listening, but not really much will change. And like then she comes with more things that she wants this, and I will be like, okay. And then one time she comes and she will be and she will express rage, anger, and will be like beating on the wall, will be beating me, and I will be in such a pain because she will victimize me, like, and she is the bad and I'm the good person. Maybe not. Maybe both of us are responsible. So the perspective of the Bhagavatam is that everyone is responsible for the experience, for the experience. And also what I wanted to discuss is like sentiment, like there is like people tend want to feel good, of course. Like, but the problem is that we tend to seek the good feeling on a bad platform. Like we want to seek it on the bodily platform, on the mental platform, on the intellectual platform. So if I'm in check and I want to feel good, that I want to send some funds. I want to wire some funds to the suffering people of Ukraine, right? And then I will feel good and I will share it on Facebook, of course. And it's more about me actually, often. So doesn't seem much good, because it like increases the misidentification with the mind, with the body, with the intelligence. But like if someone wants to do it, you know, and like similar sentiment is like some people say that God is light, like God is so many good things, like God is the sun, God is the moon, God is God, like I feel God in the forest, in the peaceful place. But then when something bad happens, like so-called bad, like some suffering or pain, which is kind of part of the world, so it will come, then this cannot be God. And I actually heard about like practicing devotees who like were practicing bhakti yoga, and then something bad happened to them. Let's say some suffering, disease, illness, children died, and they stopped practicing the Krishna consciousness or any other path, because the God wouldn't be so cruel. And maybe like the mentality is, okay, like I want to practice this, so that means that only good things will be happening to me. That's right, but it's on the wrong platform. Like I will be expanding in my proper identification. That's true. I will be like freed from the modes of the material nature, but the body, mind, intelligence will be again subject to the material laws of nature, because the I've taken birth, so I'm suffering some of my previous desires. So and it's interesting, because in Srimad Bhagavatam it said, okay, you are in the material world, you will be suffering. Okay, you will be subject to disease. Okay, you will die. So it's there. For me, when there is disease like the virus thing, or like war quite near us, but like it's near and far at the same time, then I see, okay, maybe there is something about the philosophy which is right, because it's described there. And like, yes, like I had quite an intense experience from the last 2 days, because I'm like I'm as I'm investing in the stock market, basically, and that happens to be my work, kind of by some yes, by the destiny. Like, yes, like I've experienced so much like panic, pain, stress, distress. Like yesterday in the morning I woke up and the stocks were like down, and the Russian stocks, they were down like 25-75%, and then like everything was red, and no one knew what to, like I did not know what to do, and the prices were going up, down, like up 30%, down 50%, and there was complete chaos, because like so many people were selling, and no one wanted to hold like Russian stocks, and it was all, and I was felt such like distress, pain, stress, and I felt sick, basically. and I was just watching at the screen. And yeah, like I woke up at 2 in the morning. Today I slept a little bit more. I woke about 3 because yeah, and like I could like experience the panic pain. Like that's maybe somewhat connected with it's definitely connected with my misidentification. And yes, with my misidentification, and at the same time, like I wanted to respond somehow, but I did not know how because there was no way to like knew what to do. So I went shopping, and I spent some time in the store. I put a few things in the bag, and then I was paying for the stuff, and I was paying like 0.00001% of what I lost that morning. So I so like quite an interesting experience also. Uh, and then I went back with like half the stuff I wanted to buy. So I will need to go more to the shop because I'm running out kind of. Yes, and then I found out a way. I thought, okay, this will be what I will be doing, because I could like sense that there is so much fear in the market, so it might not be good to sell. And I actually started buying, like in some way that made sense. Like yes. So let's see how it goes. Yes, and I wanted to inform my subscribers, and there was a lot of thing happening. So yes, and relief is the same for me. The guidance is the same, like to absorb myself in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. Like I try to read Srimad Bhagavatam, so I like read the verse and the purport, and I did not know what I was like reading. And that's by the knot in the heart, because the mind is so distressed. uh, so that's kind of maybe like close to like the, I don't know, I don't want to say dying, because dying is much more suffering probably, but it's like some glimpse of it, that okay, right now I feel good, I can remember the Lord, but maybe there will be other more stressful situations uh, which will come, and at that point I will especially need to forget the material identification, and to remember the Lord. Yes, and I want to end up yes, like now most people think that the Ukrainian people are in a deep trouble, right? They are suffering, but the position of Bhagavatam that each of us in the material world is in trouble. Okay, someone might be at the time like going through much more severe distress and suffering than someone else, but all of us are in trouble, and that's like the guidance of like what to do. It's not like trying to help this group or that group, or like try to change the things on the ship which is sinking, trying to like put the weight from this shoulder to that shoulder, like improve something, but to really identify the main problems of life: birth, death, old age, and disease. And once we know that these are the problems, then we should try to solve these problems. And Krishna consciousness is a way to solve these problems. Like yes, that's a solution that will last. Okay, I will read the verse once more. Oh, Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste Swapalka Putro Bhagavat Prapannaya Krishna Padankita Marga Pamshushu Achestata Prema Vibhina Dharyaha. Please tell me whether Akrura, the son of Shvabhalka, is doing well. He is a faultless soul surrendered unto the personality of Godhead. He once lost his mental equilibrium due to his ecstasy of transcendental love and fell down on the dust of a road which was marked with the footprints of Krishna. I will just make one more note. Like we read about like losing the mental equilibrium, and like maybe I could say, okay, I've lost my mental equilibrium because of the market crash, panic, war, and stuff. So I must be a pure devotee, like these personalities, right? But there are like two kinds of people. There are those that are that lost their mental equilibrium due to intense misidentification. That's me. And there are others who lost their mental equilibrium due to intense love of the Lord, because the goal is not the mental equilibrium, the goal is love of the Lord. So, and it can look in various ways, and we could think that's madness, that's something weird, odd, but that's like the love that I don't understand. So we tend to judge those things from our material kind of perspective. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for being with me, being with these ideas. Anyone who wants to add something, share a realization, ask, and such. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Yogesvara Prabhu. I love your humor and vulnerability, like not being able to sleep and all that. And I also love like, okay, what's the problem with war? This kind of question are so challenging. Like I asked that question not so long ago to someone. Is like, what's the problem with getting sick with COVID? What's the difference between being sick with COVID and not being sick with COVID? Like that. And they are so challenging question. And when it comes to wars, there is, well, people don't have a house, their house will be destroyed, maybe children will die, maybe people are going to get hurt, maybe they are going to get wounded, and so many things come, and it's bad. And I like your challenge. I appreciate your humor and vulnerability, and also your challenge, because Prabhupada said like wet stool, dry stool. It's all stool, kind of. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for that sharing. Yeah, like there are like some challenging things, right? Because like good people have the sentiment that like good things should be good, or like the best things should feel good. And like that's what I like about the Bhagavatam, because it's not like this sentiment. It's not just like this kind of hogwash, or how to say it. It's like goes to the core, like, and it makes sense, because like what's the use of trying to be good, like be a good friend, be a good neighbor, be a good husband? Like if I believe that after death all is gone and I will be gone, like what's the reasoning why I should behave good in this world? Like none. There is none. There is just some sentiment that, oh, but I should, it feels good, but it's just the sentimental feeling, and we should not base all our judgment just on our feeling, because that can mislead us, because the feeling is based on the misidentification. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It's nice to hear how you are doing. And
on your wife?
it wasn't nice. And I feel very good about myself after your class because I'm identifying with my husband. So it's like everyone sees how good and wise husband I have. So I picked well. So I'm a good person. And yeah, I really like the point you made about the war. It's like, okay, so the people die now or they die a few years from now. What's the difference? I really love that point. And then from that point of view, and something I have been thinking a lot, it's like we have nothing to fear about. Like, it's like all the bad things are going to happen. So it's not like, oh, I have to fear if it happens or not, because it's just going to happen.
Exactly.
And I have like experience like myself, but also like from different stories of others. It's like the fear of something bad happening is worse than the event itself. Even when I read some stories from people who went to the concentration camps, it was like the same, they knew it's coming and they had such a huge fear, like when it's going to come or if it's going to come. And then when they finally like went, the fear was diminished. And of course they had like different sets of suffering. Or anyway, in my life experience also, like anything that I fear about, when it actually happens, is not quite as bad as the fear. So like what you said is like, yeah, there is like nothing to fear about because all bad things are going to happen. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your sharing. I'm glad to see you too. Yes, yeah, like okay. I'm glad you feel that you feel good, like that you are identifying with me when I look good. But that's the bad thing, that that I will also look bad at some point, and like,
yeah, then
as
I'm
you
angry
share.
and look bad because I look bad too.
Yes. Yes, and could you remind me what you shared, like the second thing, like in just in short, because I've lost that thought.
Yeah, like you said, how like they know the people in war. Okay, so they might die a little.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Yeah, and like the pain from the expectation of the pain is bigger than the actual pain. Yes, they like maybe sometimes I see it like that parents are in a much bigger distress when something happens to their child. They actually often wish that they suffer instead of the child. So it's either on the platform, okay, something bad will happen to me. That's like the working of the mind, or the working of the mind, okay, something will happen to the child. Yes, and like the gross body can create a lot of like experiential suffering, experiential pain, and the mind too. Yes, Hare Krishna.
And thank you for those points you're making, both you and your wife. And I was thinking the same is true for the anticipation of happiness. You know, like people make plans and it's going to be so wonderful and great. And so the anticipation of happiness usually is way higher than the reality is just really usually very blah.
Nice, thanks. Yes, like I can have so many examples. Like what came to my mind, I like in the in a previous years, let's say, that I wanted to make French fries, right? And there is a lot of work with French fries, and I was like, oh, I will have French fries, but then I was looking forward to it, but then it was like a smushy and yeah, like I experienced more kind of joy in the process than when I was like eating it.
Yes.
You want to speak?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Yogesvara. I really appreciated the class. I appreciated the honesty, and I'm resonating with two things really deeply that I want to share. The first, what Ladini just shared, how like the fear of something happening is a lot worse than like the actual thing happening. And a bit of a like personal story is like the last like weekend I visited my mom to summarize, she thinks I joined like a Hare Krishna cult, which maybe in a sense I did. But then also like, so she's worried, she's concerned about me, and she wants me to come home. And anyways, and then like hearing Dear Govinda's story of getting kidnapped, I've been having like this fear about getting kidnapped by my parents. And like, yeah, so I'm just like, have been experiencing that, like really like in this like fear of something happening, like anxiety. And then the other thing I'm really resonating with is the equanimity, or the mental equilibrium. Like yesterday we talked a bit about impersonalism and or like those who, you know, realize the impersonal Brahma versus those who develop this bhakti yoga for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I, for 2 years, I'll say, like I was, you know, with some sincerity, I was practicing an impersonalist meditation called Vipassana. Like I would go do 10-day courses where we would sit, like it would usually be in the woods, and we would sit for 10 hours a day in complete silence. And the goal was mental equilibrium. It was equanimity, and that was it. And then yesterday we were talking a bit about like just that being boring, and that was my experience. And Parampara mentioned like you know, his experience was it's kind of it's very comfortable to be like, oh, this is the goal, like I just have to be at peace, like I just have to have this mental equilibrium. I don't have to move into this mood of, oh, you know, a service. Like I don't have to move into this mood of like, I want to serve the center, I want to give back to the center. And like my experience is like those knots, those grantis were still there. Like everything was still about me. And then Gadendra was mentioning, we were speaking about like the you know, different levels of pleasure, like realization, like impersonalists, like a calf print, a hoof print of a calf, that much water compared to the ocean of bhakti. And yeah, I'm just resonating with like that. And then the other last thing I'll share is that like at the highest level, the highest heavenly planet is just one drop of water of pleasure. And so yeah, thank you for listening. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, like you experience the fear from the fear of suffering in the future, like you, that something bad could be done to you. Yes, and like yes, like the goal, like trying to come to the mental peace. Yes, and like the question is like, why? Okay, like, so I can what? So I can do nothing. Oh, that's exciting. Like it seems better than like suffering, because the goal is not to feel right, in sense. So okay, because if I have like that feelings are the source of suffering, like that's the material experience kind of, then I will try to solve the material experiencing by going to the other extreme. So I will try not to feel, and I will think that will solve anything. But you know, the philosophy of Srimad Bhagavatam says that the soul has feelings. So as long as I'm an eternal soul, I will not be able to run from those feelings. So sooner or later, I will want to feel something. So I will fall down. Ariuja Krichena Padam Padam Patanti Adha. Again, for my wife. Otherwise, I wouldn't do that. Yes. So thanks for that.
Hare Krishna. This could be research, but I think historically, when I was kidnapped in June of 1984, I think I was the last practitioner of Krishna consciousness kidnapped and deprogrammed, at least that I'm aware of in North America. So that makes me a historically important person. No, really, I think after me they gave up. I do. And they had a string of like the Hare Krishnas because they were kidnapping from other cults and it would work because like there's no philosophy. Then they had a string culminating in me of like, okay, the Hare Krishnas, they kind of fake us out. They kind of fake us out. And then a week later, it's like just like that. So I think after me, they gave up. That's what I heard. And yeah, just following up on this, I really liked what you culminated with, what you ended with, and Nico followed up on. You said like, yeah, mental equilibrium is not the goal. Love of Krishna is the goal. And yes, and that really gets to the core. It really gets to the core of the distinction between impersonalism and personalism. So here, a core in the verse, and Lord Chaitanya described in the purport. So there's the truly spiritual version of he just lost it. He just lost it. And so the material version of that, like I'm in so much anxiety I couldn't sleep, material version. But then with the core, it's the spiritual version of my emotions just overcame me. And so that's Lord Chaitanya. So it's like it really gets to the core of distinction, because with the impersonalism, when that's the goal, yeah, then the goal is peace. There's a pastime with Srila Prabhupada, and someone was talking about meditation, and it was a hippie sort of person, and Prabhupada asked, "What's the goal of your meditation?" And so the response was, "We want peace. Peace is the goal." And Prabhupada almost had like a look of disdain. He said, they want peace. Almost like, because like Prabhupada, the devotees, they're like eager to accept anxiety. Like anxiety. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a statement, he said, anxiety is undertaken in your service. I consider the source of my greatest ecstasy. So let's take on more anxiety to relieve Prabhupada's burden, to share Krishna consciousness. And if it's truly for that, and not so that I can be recognized as this and that, but if it's so taking on anxiety for Krishna's mission, for Lord Chaitanya's mission, Prabhupada's mission, then that's truly, that's joyful for the heart. So there's anxiety, there's getting overwhelmed by emotion on the spiritual platform, so rich, so for everything in this realm is a distorted reflection of what's there in Goloka Vrindavan and Vaikuntha in its pure form. And one more thing comes to me in my personal reading. I'm reading the 6th canto towards the end of the 6th canto. And it's a pastime, Maharaj Chitraketu. And this is after like he had Harsha Shoka, him and his wife Krita Jyoti, and they had a son, and they were so happy, and then the son died. That's why the son was called Harsha Shoka. Son died, and then two mendicants came who happened to be Indira Rishi and Narada Muni. They were in disguise, but Chitraketu sort of guessed you're some special personality. And so Angira Rishi, who appeared to Chitraketu earlier in the pastime, and he gave him the blessing. Yes, you will have a son, because Chitraketu was very, very much distraught. He had so many wives, but there was no children. So okay, you'll have a son. So they were really happy, and the son died, and then he was really sad. So Angira Rishi, what he was saying essentially, like the essence of your class about those designations, like, of course the Ukrainians are good, unless you're in Russia. Of course, the husband's the good one, but that's not necessarily supreme objectivity, not necessarily. And you kind of humbly indicated that there. So Angira Rishi said, like, he said, when I came to you the first time, I could have given this knowledge about upadis, about false designation. You are the king of this, and if your enemies are winning, then you're sad, and you're the father of this one, and you're the husband of this one. These are all temporary designations that just based on the mind, which is a temporary. And it goes, you're not the body, not the mind, you're the spirit soul, and that's not. There's no temporary designations. That's the real platform of ecstasy. And if you remove Rishi, he said, I would have liked to have explained all this to you the first time I visited, but it was clear you weren't ready to receive the supreme knowledge. You wanted a child. You had this fierce attachment. You wanted a child. So okay. So and then the point there was that, okay, in this case, Angira Rishi through his blessings, but whether it's through the super soul, material energy, Krishna, that okay, we'll have material desires fulfilled. And the point is to come to that realization that I'm not Ukrainian, I'm not Russian, I'm not Czech, I'm not from Philadelphia, to come to that realization of all the good and bad based on the material platform. This is like, this is all mistaken, this is all illusory condition. We had a nice distinction yesterday in class given by Diva Mukta Guru, the distinction between illusion and illusory. And to come to find, I'm spirit, soul, let me seek my fulfillment on that platform. Otherwise, we can do the whole war is bad, and you deconstructed it. And I said, well, because death is bad and suffering is bad. Here's the thing: even if this word will stop, we're going to suffer disease, old age, and death. If not today, then tomorrow. So, what comes to me is like, that our material desires are fulfilled ultimately so that we get that lesson. And as long as we don't get it fully, then we'll keep having material desires fulfilled. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Yes, because there is the tendency, my tendency to get rid of the uncomfortable stuff, to get rid of the pain, but that's not the understanding of the world, of the soul, and of the absolute truth, because the pain has a cause. There is a reason for the pain, for the suffering, for the distress, and the reason is to remember the Lord. The reason is to guide us, give us a hint. Okay, I don't want this, and maybe I will start seeking something more. Yes, and that's related to what you shared, and for example, in the stock market, what people, inexperienced people, so most of the people, or I don't know, dumb people, I don't know, 95% people do it. I don't know how I would label them, and not to say anything bad. Anyhow, if let's say the stock I'm holding, or a bond, or anything else, which is quoted on the stock market, right? It falls in price 50%. And now I will have the experience from as if I lost something, as if I lost some part of myself because I misidentified with the money. Then I will think, then the stock will be the source of pain, basically, and I will be urged to sell the stock and forget that I held the stock, because that's trying to get rid of the bad feelings. Well, that's a way to lose usually a lot of money. Yes, so that's the psychology in finance, and it's very nice and visible often, actually. Hare Krishna. And even so-called professional people do that because they don't want to look good. That's maybe a different motivation. They can maybe sustain the pain from the falling, but when they report the numbers after the end of the year, and they show that they hold this thing that fell down 75%, they don't want to look bad before the boss, basically. So they before the end of the year, they just sell all these like bad stuff and like keep the good ones because it's not their money. So it's kind of profitable business for them. Hare Krishna. Are there any other notes, questions, sharings? We still have a little bit of time. Aladini, yeah.
Hare Krishna. I only want to make a quick comment about the impersonal, boring thing, like the peace. I had an experience in my life few times that I have like a day or two of a complete peace, and it was so boring. And I really felt like okay, it was like good, like for 1 hour or 2 hours, or I don't know how long. It was like, wow, like no suffering, it feels so good. And then like few moments later, it was just like so boring, and I really felt like, so now what? And then I went back to the drama.
Yeah, it sounds like you chose the drama. I think you are replying yes. Okay. Yes, like and I wanted to also note, like, feeling the mental peace is not bad. Okay, like I can use the mental peace to think of Krishna. That's like the sattvic benefit and trap at the same time. Yes, Mother Malini.
Quite often in Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, he say in order to cultivate Krishna consciousness, one need to be peaceful and calm. So how do we understand that? Because it's really quite often, and I know at one point I read that and I made it a point that, okay, that's the most important for me to keep myself calm, because that's a platform to cultivate Krishna consciousness.
Yes, I have the same understanding. I'm like also like trying to like be in a calm way. So like, okay, like my example, I'm like heavily misidentified with the family, the idea of like how a successful life should be, that I should have like kids, I should have a house, I should have a car, I should have money, I should have friends. So okay, like that's the state I am at, and I'm not willing properly or like able. It's like a mixture because I'm under the modes of the nature. I'm not like able, willing to just like step out of it and like be transcendental and like just to choose the detachment. So as a part of the process, okay, I have all these things and they create some like mental peace, and from that platform I can like go forwards towards like cultivating Krishna consciousness, and then by trusting the process, I will stop, hopefully, at some point, emotionally depend on those things that I want to surround myself with. So I think that's quite an important step, and it's visible that even we have the best plans, those can fail, and we will be in the distress once more.
Hare Krishna, thanks for that. Yeah, well, your question, Malini, had kind of the response in it, like, yeah, calm and peaceful, to cultivate Krishna consciousness. Like as the goal in itself, it's a nice goal. It's actually a sattvic goal compared to material activities, acquisitions, emotions. It's a good goal. But as a goal in itself, then it's not going to satisfy the soul. As Yogesvara quoted, "We a creature in a pram padam tata patan yada anadru yushmadangraya." Like the impersonal realize they get bored. But as a goal, let me cultivate peace as a platform to enthusiastically practice Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, my material hankering and lamenting and depression and material happiness, it gets in the way of practicing Krishna consciousness. So let me cultivate peace as a platform for cultivating Krishna consciousness. There are many of the pastime, many of the stories of those who kind of came to pure devotional service. They do go through a Brahmajyoti stage. So they do go through the peace, no material hankering and lamenting, as a platform for cultivating Krishna consciousness. So yeah, so the peace is not being denigrated per se, but as a goal in itself, it's actually nice, but it's incomplete. And then true Krishna consciousness includes that peace in a very dynamic way.
Yes, Hare Krishna. And like the mental peace can like be a sign of the progress on the path. Because if I'm like, I'm in the process of Krishna consciousness, and I'm thinking I'm like a pure devotee, almost pure devotee, but I'm constantly disturbed by something. I need to like change things and like go there, here, there, to like trying to control prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. Then I'm probably missing something. So we can also see our daily life, how we are getting like disturbed by the circumstances, and we have a chance to respond to them. If we are we can respond in a way that we can further progress. Yes, Bhakti Yoga Retreat. Do you have a comment? It's complete.
I think Malini was just giving a thumbs up to your response.
Okay, Haribo, nice. It was great to be with you again. I wish you a blissful day when you reach like the mental equilibrium and progress further. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Krishna 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 Krishna